What's up, Juice? What's going on, Elite King? How's everybody? Hello, J. Lau. See you. Diana. J. Lau joined. Diana, how you doing? What's up? Good to see y'all back this week. Here for a good special edition this week. It's good to hear you all right. We have a great show for y'all tonight. We have a great guest tonight. Hey, Jariel, how you doing? I see you. Hello, Miss Eva Smith, a.k.a. P, up in Newark, New Jersey, or what was Newark. Appreciate you, Juice. Appreciate you. We trying to do a good thing. How you doing, Miss Tabor? It's good to see you after putting on a show at our last event, flying away. Hey, Scout, how are you? Glad all of y'all could join. We have a special guest tonight. I'm really excited to have him in tonight. Got it. I know very well. He'll be joining us shortly. It'll be Coach Rick Lewis is tonight's guest tonight. Rick Lewis, the director and founder of Phenom Hoop Report. Hey, what's up, Jalen Freeman? True Tash, HMS _baller. Coach Pop is in the building. We're gonna have a full house tonight as we have the one and only Rick Lewis, a trailblazer in North Carolina. Ty Dimes, I see you. We'll be starting shortly in a few minutes as more people come in, and let me just get y'all up to date on a couple of things as we wait on it to begin. What's up, Ben from the 910? First of all, like we always do to start out, drop in the comments where you're from. I want to know where you're from, who's in the building. I know I've seen New Jersey, I've seen South Carolina, North Carolina, I saw Maryland. Hey, Dad. Hey, what's up, Sean? Sean over, our scout over in VA is in the building. Our scout over in Burlington area. Justin B. Ballin, San Francisco, California is watching. Newark, New Jersey is watching. Steve, hey, how you doing? My guy, Xander Carter's dad. That's my guy. I love some Xander. Where everybody from? We're getting ready to get started in a few minutes as we have a special guest. I'm excited. Very momentarily, we'll be bringing in the one and only Rick Lewis. If you don't know him, if you don't know where your history of North Carolina basketball, Kentucky is in the building. Great job. I appreciate it. DC is in the building. DC. So we got so far 5-6 different states here, from California to Kentucky to Jersey. I'm glad you guys are joining us tonight. It's going to be a great show. We're getting started in about 2 minutes. Before we get started, I want to tell you, give you an idea of who we all got coming. We got some special guests this week, or next week, I should say. Stay tuned. We'll talk more about it. Tuesday, we have Jamin Brakefield, who was the 2018 Super 60 Showdown MVP. He was the 3-time West Virginia Gatorade Player of the Year. He's also a Duke commit, going to Duke next season. So we're excited to have him on here Tuesday. And then Tuesday, we'll announce who's coming on Thursday, which will be another good one. We're going to get started in just a second here as I get Rick on the line. Coach Rick Lewis. We'll have Coach Rick Lewis stand by as we get started with him in about 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Also, I want you all to understand, as we always do, not only do I want you to drop your comments of where you're from, I also want you to feel free at any time to ask questions. Now, we don't always get to all of the questions, but we do our best to get to as many questions as we can and that a time allow us for. So if you have any questions along the way for me or Coach Rick Lewis, yes, Trey, I know, I see it. Northern California is in here. Can't guard. I see you, Rob Bridges is in the building. We're about to join with with Rick in about 1 minute. And so before we get started again, drop your questions you may have. What's up, Xander? My guy, Xander. I love me some Xander Carter. That kid can play out of Kentucky. I like him a lot. So drop your questions. If you have any questions for me or Coach Rick Lewis, ask questions the whole time. If we don't get to it right then, we'll try to get it and put it in, in the middle of what we're talking. Hey, what's up, Amir? How you doing? So we're going to do our best to get everybody's questions in if you ask questions. Again, look for next Tuesday coming on the next edition of Courtside Conversations. You'll hear from the one and only Jamin Brakefield. If you don't know who Jamin Brakefield is, look him up. He's the Duke commit that'll be in. But now we're going to get started with our Coach Rick Lewis, and as we welcome him into Courtside Conversations.
Hey, Lamont.
Great. Hey, I want to first off thank you for being here. It's an honor to have such legendary coach in North Carolina. Everybody know. I mean, a lot of people don't even know that when Get Me Recruited started, the very first event we ever went to was a Rick Lewis Phenom event. People don't even know that. So,
in Lamont, and I remember exactly where and when it was. It was in Winston-Salem at the Gateway YWCA.
It was.
And I was having a Phenom 150 camp, and you had called me and you said, hey, Rick, you explain your company with Get Me Recruited. Can I come by and set up a table?
That's right.
And I said, explain it to me. And you said, we're just here to help kids. And I said, hey, if there's any platform we can use to help the kids get recruited, I'm all for it. And
that's right.
That was the very first event that you attended of ours.
That's and very first event we've ever attended. So
right,
I'm forever grateful for that. And I was having that conversation with a guy that told me, make sure you say to Rick Lewis hello. If you know a guy by the name of Harold Johnson.
Yeah. I know Harold quite well.
Yeah, he loves some Rick. He said, man, when you get Rick on there, you make sure you tell him Harold Johnson said hello. And I told him I would. Yeah.
He's a great guy, and he was Mr. 5-Star. And I remember back in the day, we used to go to 5-star camps with him all the time during the summer.
That's right. That's at the top of their heyday. That was
yes,
the
sir.
camp to go to, So a lot of people, they know of Phenom. They know of Rick as the director, but tell them a little bit about your background and who you are, not just only as basketball, but the whole Rick Lewis and how Phenom got started.
Well, I was just a basketball junkie growing up. And, my daughter Bridget, when she was 12 years old, I first started an AAU team with her back in 1986. In the first 3 years, we had an AAU team called the Statesville Stars, and we were very successful. I had my daughter Bridget. I had another girl, Gretchen Hollifield, and Tracy McConnor, who went on to play at Wake Forest. So I actually got started on the girls' side in the 80s. My daughter went to Statesville High School, had a very good career. She played college at Brevard. And during that course, I got to know the girls' coach at Statesville, Kent Blackwelder, who was one of the best girls' coach in the state of North Carolina. After my daughter graduated, I was an assistant coach at Statesville High School and also North Iredell High School, and I did that for a number of years. And then later on, we had Colby and Tyler, and then in 1993, when Tyler was 9 and under, I formed the Carolina Flight organization. And a couple summers went by, and there was a camp out in San Diego, California called the Phenom America Camp. Joe Keller had it.
Yep.
I took Tyler out there. It was absolutely loaded with talent, the top players in the country. I mean, for middle school kids, I know people, poo-poo on that. But the kids that were there, they end up being really, really good players, the high school, college, and then a lot of those kids end up being pros there. But we started the North Carolina Junior Phenom Camp in 2004 as a regional camp. It was a franchise, and I basically did it as a fundraiser for the Carolina Flight organization.
Really?
Yeah, that's basically how I started it. I just started doing a couple camps, one in the spring and one in the fall. And it was basically just fundraising, doing a camp, having the opportunity to take the money we made off the camp, put it back in the Carolina Flight organization. And I did that up until 2009. And in 2009, I was working with a textile firm out of New York. After 30 years in the business, we got brought out and I lost my job. So I'm in my 50s and I'm sitting there thinking about what can I do with my life. And I said, you know what? I've been doing camps. At that point in time, I made a decision. I said, oh, I gave up coaching AAU at that point in time. And I said, I'm going to go ahead and do camps and try to make a living doing camps. And at that point in time, I had a couple college coaches reach out to me and said, Rick, you're covering all these games. Tyler's going to be, why don't you just do your scouting service? We'll take it and we'll tell our friends about it. So the very first year that I started, I had approximately 30 schools that take the service. And since then, it's grown each and every year. And as of today, we have over 140 schools that subscribe to the Phenom Hoop Report.
Awesome. That's awesome. And it's to hear about that growth, because that's one of the things I wanted to talk about was, I remember when it was, 10, 15 events.
Right.
And it grew to 20, 25, and you had events in Indiana. Did you ever imagine when you first put it together that it would grow to be as large as it is?
I really didn't. I was totally surprised by it. The camps got very successful, and by having the camps, I was able to add additional staff. And just like your business model with Get Me Recruited, you've been very successful in what you do. And by being successful, you've been able to add people to your staff. And that was the one thing that we were able to do as well, is just add pieces to the puzzle, add staff to it, provide a better product, and also provide a platform for a lot of young players to, utilize, to get to the next level.
Right. That's really just what it's all about, is that growth, And let me just stop while I got all these people on the line right now, because Rick, you and I, we go to lunch. We've talked several times over the years. We've traded ideas and all types of things. But for the life of me, and we talked about this the other day, there's always been that rumor that Rick and Lamont don't get along. And God is my witness. Now, listen to this. This morning, I get a call. Someone said, Lamont, I looked on my timeline and I couldn't believe what I was looking at. He says, Rick is on your show. Wait, I thought y'all didn't like each other. And I'm thinking to myself when he said that was, we've never had a conversation about me and Rick. So why did you think that? That was my first, I didn't ask him that because whatever, but I'm thinking to myself, why would you think that if we've never had that conversation about me and Rick? It's just been a thing. Now, I will say, just to be totally honest, I love Rick, but we all have, staff members that we may not care for as much as the director. I know some people like Pop a lot more than they like me, and, they like me more than they like Pop or Trey or whatever, but you and I have always been like, I owe you a lot to giving us that first opportunity. I really do. And, we've always been able to call each other. So I just want to take this opportunity while we're both on here and we got all these listeners waiting for you to come on here and me say, well, I never did like Phenom. Let me clear it up while we're all here. Rick and I have been friends for years. We've never had any exchange of bad words or bad blood. And so I want to just debunk that rumor and let's just get it out of the way.
Absolutely. Right? Lamont, the very first time that you called me to want to be at one of our events, we developed a relationship. I think a lot of times in business, when people see that, they think we're competitors. I mean, we're in the same business, but I really don't. We don't look at each other as competitors, because the one thing a lot of people don't realize is we do talk and we do communicate. For example, greatest illustration here. We both had a mutual understanding, okay, when Dave Tellep left and he was doing the Carolina Challenge. We both came to the realization, say, hey, we don't need to compete against each other.
That's
And
right.
so we had a gentleman's agreement, okay, I'll do mine this weekend,
That's
you
right.
do yours the next weekend.
That's
And I
right.
think people don't realize that we've tried to do camps that don't conflict with each
That's right.
other. And
That's
that was
right.
basically a gentleman's agreement out of admiration, respect for each other.
That's right. And you know, even other ones. I remember you saying, once remember getting a call from you one time. It's like, hey, we were getting ready to do this. I just wanted to make sure that you weren't doing. I really appreciate that. You know what I mean? You didn't have to, but it was, the respect we have for each other,
Right.
that you did that, and I really appreciate that. And we've always tried to not conflict with each other and
Right.
so forth. And like you said,
Well, Lamont, one other thing too is, we hear things and it's like a lot of times people like to pit one person against another or one organization against another.
true,
At the end of the day, you have a great platform. You really do. And you do a good job.
appreciate
We
it.
have a good platform and we do a
Absolutely,
good job. And there's nothing wrong with having two companies that do a great job and provide a great platform. And at the end of the day, you having a great platform makes me want to do a better job and vice versa.
absolutely.
It's like competition. It's like having a player playing one on one. If you're playing against someone better,
Yeah,
you're going to improve and get better.
that's right.
If you play against somebody that's not as good, you won't probably get as good. So I think the thing that people don't understand is what you've done and the platform you provided has helped me grow as a person, as a business, and I think that's probably
The same,
reciprocal as well. And
absolutely.
and and the other thing too is when we do hear things that someone says, well, you know what, this is what they're saying about you, Rick, at Phenom. What do I usually do? I
Yeah,
pick up the
just pick up
phone.
the phone and call me.
I say, Lamont, just want to let you know this is what was being said and clear the air
Right.
because that's just that's how I've always been. It's just
That's
that
right.
just always put things out in the open and be honest and very transparent about it.
That's right. And that was a recent call. Matter of fact,
Right.
that got us here was I've been known to say some things at some people. I don't hold punches, but sometimes I don't want to particularly start any problems. I just like to let them know I know. And
Right.
so whenever I do that, and I'm not on there very often, y'all, you know, people think I'm on Twitter a lot, but I'm really not. I just post what I'm doing,
Right.
my events or a kid, and I just jump off. But when I post something, they just they just automatically assume I'm coming for Rick and Phenom. And I told you the other day, I said, Rick, I apologize. I had no idea they would even think it was you.
Well,
That's
uh,
what they've done.
well, I think the thing happens is I think a lot of people make will posts, and if it's a negative post, I think a lot of people will. 90% of the people will think it's a jab at Phenom. And the thing about it is I've made posts that in the past that I didn't mean something, and somebody may have taken it the wrong way, and
Mm,
that's very seldom because I try to be very positive and uplifting on my social media tweets.
mhm,
And if that's ever happened, usually I do call that person if there's a misunderstanding.
mhm,
I have reached out to him just like I have you and said,
mm.
"Hey, I apologize. I didn't really mean it that way."
That's right. That's right. And while we're talking about growth and what we do, there's another rumor I want us to debunk right here. They look at how many campers we have, they look at how many teams we have in an event, and they automatically assume we're over here getting rich. And Rick, I know, but that's me saying about myself. I want you to explain if you don't have a love for this, if you are not doing it for the love of the kids and really love what you do, and you're in it for the money, you won't last here long. You won't last here long. Am I correct on that?
Well, absolutely. But I want to add one thing to it. It's not a sin to run a successful business.
Right.
A lot of people have different jobs, whether they're a construction worker, a banker, an accountant, whatever they may do, they're a teacher, they whatever. They put 40 hours a week in and they expect to get paid. I
That's
know
right.
how much work you put into this business and also the guys that you have on your staff. People
Yeah.
don't understand the number of hours that your guys put on the
Yeah.
road, going to go watch a game, driving 1 hour away or 2 hours away,
Yeah.
paying to get into a high school game at the public school level,
Yeah.
and doing write ups, and then driving back home. So there's a lot of expenses along the way.
Absolutely.
But people don't understand, like, they might have an event and they see 400 people there and they go, oh, we charge $10, that's $4,000. And they go, man, they're just raking in the cash. But what they don't understand is, number one, you got to get insurance, which can be $500. You got to have gym rental, which may be 1,500 or 2,000.
That's right.
You may also have to have security, which is going to be another couple of $100. You got to get a trainer that $35 an hour. You got to
Yep.
get a clock keeper, scorekeeper, and the most expensive thing that you're going to have is pay the officials.
Yeah. Referees. Yeah. Yeah.
So at the end of the day, we've done events. There's been events we've made money. There's events that we broke even, and there's events that we've lost money. But at the end of the day, you have a staff, I have a staff, and we have to make money as a business to keep going.
Yeah.
Um, you have a website, I have a website. We have guys that we have staff writers. Well, they
Mm-hmm.
go out and they cover guys at the high school level.
Yeah.
You know what? We have to pay those guys,
Yeah.
and rightfully so.
Yeah.
So, nothing is free in the world. And I think, sometimes, you know, I don't look at it this way. I think the kids in North Carolina are extremely blessed because there's a lot of good people doing this. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of platforms,
Right.
and there's a lot of people who write about players. And to me, it's a blessing that the more writers we have writing about players, it's a bigger platform. At the end of the day, the players are the one that wins.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, that's a great point. And you've been around, like we said, quite some time, and you've seen some really great players out there. Um, North Carolina is rich in basketball. Now, if you had to say your top few, who are some of the best players you've watched over the years?
I'll go back to 2009 when I started being an NCAA compliant scout. I would have to say T.J. Warren was up there as one of the best that I've seen. And I'm going to be prejudiced in this. I'm going to include my son Tyler because I think he was one of the most fun players to watch at the high school level. Um, he was one. Rodney Purvis was tremendous in high school. Dennis Smith, Harry Giles, Idris Adebayo, and then just recently, Kobe White,
Yeah.
Devon Dotson. The state of North Carolina, it just has an overwhelming amount of talent in the state. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, yeah. No question. I think about sometimes I'll be watching a game and then be like, oh man, there's so and so, and I totally forgot about him or where he played at, and be like, man, I remember watching him at high school, and now he's doing this and we've seen so many deep players over the last few years.
Yeah. Well, the other good thing is this is the fun part about it. With your Super 60, and we've done it with our top 80. Think of the number of players that's come through the Super 60 and also the NC Top 80 that went on to play at the collegiate level, and it's also the NBA. A good example was just recently Quincy Ballard that played at Quality Education. They were in our Hoop State Championship, and he committed to Florida State. And I saw that you tweeted out that he was at your Super 60.
Yeah.
I think as event operators, that's the fun part is seeing kids come through at an earlier age and see them develop in high school, go to college, and also have the opportunity to play at the professional level.
Yeah, to see you mentioned Quincy, and that was one that I really enjoyed seeing live his dream because it was not that long ago, 6 months ago, and he wasn't getting a lot of, you know, attention from college coaches, and his confidence was down. And he was, I remember having a conversation with him about, you have what it takes, keep going. There's going to be down times, and you're under a great coach, so keep it going.
Right.
So when I saw that, you know as well as I do, once one or two coaches fall in, and everybody runs in.
Right.
And I was so happy to see that for him because once he got his confidence back, and it don't take but one or two college coaches to
Right.
get on your trail, and then it just kind of blossomed for him. And I was just so happy to see that for that young man. You know,
Well, as you well know, in recruiting, it's a domino effect. Once that first domino falls, you got quite a few schools that was going to offer based on the first one offering, and I think
that's
that's really what happened with Quincy. I mean, because a lot of people really didn't see him play.
that's right. And in fact, I saw them play maybe about 4 or 5 times this year, and there were several games he didn't really even get to play much.
Wow.
Under whether it be not doing what the coach wanted him to
Right.
do, like or whatever. He wasn't on the floor that much. So, like you said, it was that domino effect that once
Right.
he got seen, it was everybody was coming. I remember when I got a call about him from a high major coach, and I was like, wow, they're really starting to catch on to him now.
Right.
You know, um, Now doing this is as long as you have the landscape has started to change a little bit, right?
Hmm.
Um, and grassroots as a whole has started to evolve. I, and just to give an example of what I'm thinking, in the last 5 years, I would say, I've watched the mentality of the kids change as far as, and we like to call them like divas, and um, they don't have that same dog in them like that the earlier
That
kids did. I like okay, for example, Kyron Bowman, right? This is a kid that had a scholarship for football
right.
and had zero basketball scholarships, but decided to bet on himself because he had that dog in him. And I've seen today that they're so prima donna, and you know, they, you tell me how's it that the landscape changed for as you see it in the last 10, 15 years?
Well, I do think you've raised a really good point, and I think a lot of it has to do with social media. I think social media can be a plus and a negative. Um, you know, I can relate, when I was coaching my son Tyler, and the one thing that he was just an undersized kid who played at the highest level. But the one thing that I always took away from it is no matter what it was one on one, 2-on-2, no matter what game it was, he wanted to win. He hated to lose.
That's
And
right.
I think that what's happened is with with basically the travel ball, with the mentality is you have so many games. You're playing 2, 3 games a day. So when you lose, in the morning session, well, guess what? You have a game 2 hours later. So I don't think a lot of kids, not all of them, I think some of them just don't take winning seriously. They don't play with that motor.
Right.
Sometimes they try to play a little bit too cool at times. I
Right.
think that's the thing. But if you really look at the kids who are successful, when you watch them play, they have that alpha dog mentality.
Yes.
They play with the
Yes.
motive. They play with purpose. They play with passion.
Yes.
Those are the kids that have the skill set, the athleticism, but they have that drive deep inside. A good example is to watch a kid like Josh Hall,
Hmm.
who
Hmm.
has developed, you know, when we seen him when he was in middle school and, high school and, 2 years ago, he was getting low major offers. And you know what? He believed in himself. But the one thing I could always say about him, he played hard. He had that chip on his shoulder. And I think those are the type of players you're going to see be more successful down the road.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny you mentioned Josh. I remember like yesterday he came to our freshman event and and wasn't getting the attention and I think he went up to Oak Hill for the JV team for a
The
little
red
while.
team, yeah, the red team,
Yeah,
yeah.
the red team, and so he's another one that I'm just so happy for him and Tanika and them for just working it out. The dog and me and Pop, we have a criteria we use when we talk about kids' motor, and we always compare it to Kristen Brown. To
Right,
us,
yeah.
Chris,
Big time motor.
his motor was just one of those that if Pop is telling me about a kid, he would say he has a Christian Brown motor,
Right,
or he would say not quite Christian Brown, but on the I
right.
know exactly what he's talking about because that was one of the most Christian would really run until he almost passed out.
Right.
He would work that
He would.
hard. You know, so and sometimes having that motor will mask what you're lacking in a skill set. You know
Right.
what I mean? I always kind of put it in the way of like Dennis Rodman. You know, he made a difference in what he did that wasn't shooting the jumper from the 3-point line or driving to the basket, but when it came to getting rebounds, he just outworked you.
Yeah.
You know, so those type of things. Now, do you think the competition level in North Carolina has gotten better, or it was better back in the day? Which one are you more leaning toward?
I think today there's more talent. I think that as you look at the landscape today, it just seems like there's more and more players that's playing at a high level. And I think we're blessed in North Carolina. A lot of people don't realize that North Carolina is the ninth most populated state, but it's a hoop state. I mean, you have, UNC, you have Duke, you have NC State, and you have Wake Forest. Between, Carolina's won 6 championships. I think Duke has won 5. NC State's won 2. Basketball is the second religion in North Carolina.
Right.
And I think the other thing, too, that we're seeing is a lot of young players are specializing in one sport at an earlier age. And,
Mm-hmm.
you look at 9 and 10-year-olds and you look at their ball handling skills and their skill set, and you're going, oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so I think the players have improved tremendously as far as their skill set. Now, some people go, I disagree with that because the kids are athletic and they don't have the fundamentals. I think there's a blend there. I do think the athleticism with the kids is far better than ever before because kids are training, on a year-round basis, whether it was Vertimax. But you're seeing young players specialize in basketball to be faster, quicker, stronger, more explosive. They're working on that on a continuous basis throughout the year.
Yeah, no, and we cover a lot of middle school basketball, and before I got into middle school, I was dead set against it.
Right,
The same way I was with girls, I was dead set against it. But when I did get in it, and I started seeing what it looks when you find the elite players, it's just unreal. Some of these middle school players, I can get a middle school team together that'll beat a lot of varsity teams. Like these kids can play. And matter of fact, our middle school event coming up, we probably got 10 kids over 6'6", and I'm like,
right,
man, it's middle school. You know what I mean?
right,
So it's changed a lot. You know, you and Dave Teller, you guys kind of, you know, were the first people I was aware of when it came to scouting. Because, in Lumberton, where I was and had my team, I had some great teams. Like I had, Quincy Miller and Stargell
right,
Love and those kids, but I didn't know this world actually existed. I was
right.
actually green at that time. So it was watching you and watching Dave that really influenced me and starting getting me recruited. Who were some of the people that influenced you?
Well, Dave Tellett was one of them. Also, Bob Gibbons. And I have to say that the people who influenced me the most was the
Mhm.
college coaches. Um, I can remember the team I had with the Carolina Flight when Tyler was in the 8th grade, and I had kids like Tyler and Anthony Gill and Jackson Simmons and Paris Roberts. That was a fun group of kids, and I had Jeremy Jeffers playing on my team at one time, Brian Richardson from the eastern part of the state. So
Oh wow.
we had a lot of quality players that was on the team. So I got to know a lot of the coaches. So that was back in the time when I mentioned in 2009. It's the old saying, when one door closes, another one opens.
That's right.
When I lost my job, it was basically the coaches that I had the relationships with that used to come back and watch our teams, and I would talk to them. And at that point in time, they would in turn, influence me and guide me that I should be doing the scouting service. And that's how I basically got into it.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? That's
Plus,
interesting.
plus I needed the income because, after 30 years with the company, when you're in your 50s and you're sitting there, what am I going to do with my life? I'm in my 50s, and I took my life savings and invested in the business. Of course, as you well know, you've done this. Those first 2, 3, 4 years, you're not making anything. and you live off savings and
Yeah.
whatever money you accumulated. It's tough. People don't understand the process that it takes to get to where we are today.
Yeah, and I think that's a testament to why, if you've been around as long as we have, you see so many come in and drop out after a certain amount of time because I think we make it look easier than what it may really be because they just see the part they see on social media or see us in the gym, but they don't see the countless hours, doing write-ups or research and those type the conversations. It takes a lot of sacrifice to do what we do, and for you to be have done it as long as you have to have a great support system. Your family have to really support what you do. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. The one thing about it is basketball is my life. It's my livelihood, but more than anything else, it's a passion and it's my purpose, and I enjoy it. I spend 10, 12 hours each and every day doing nothing but basketball, whether it's writing articles, doing content, talking to college coaches. Everything that I basically do is evolved around the Phenom platform and how can we make this a better platform for players moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's Man, that says a lot. Um, Now, of course, with social media and everything, basketball is becoming more of a global sport. What can organizations like Get Me Recruited and Phenom do to remind the world? Now, North Carolina is still that hoop state. We still is the place to come for all things basketball.
Well, in North Carolina, like I said before earlier, you have the Big Four, Tobacco Road, the history between UNC, Duke, NC State, Wake Forest. Basketball is the second religion in North Carolina. But the passion in North Carolina for high school basketball and college basketball is unprecedented. The only place I've seen that high school basketball is as strong is in Indiana. Now high school hoops up there is really really big, but they don't have as many schools. They got bigger schools, more population, more students. So you go to a basketball game up there, it's 3,500, 4,000,
Right, right.
5,000. You don't see that down here because we have more schools and it's more spread out. But when you think about it, you look at the history of players that's played in the state of North Carolina, whether it's a David Thompson or Michael Jordan, Phil Ford, Dominique Wilkins, the list goes on and on. And look at what we produce year in, year out. And I did some stuff.
I think we froze a little bit. We can get him back. All right, I think he jumped off. Let's try to get him back in here. Let's see. I think we lost him. Hold on one second. See if we can get Coach Rick back in. Coach Rick, if you could see us, we need you to come back in. All right, y'all. I think we had a little difficulty with his his all right, anybody else having any difficulty? Let's see. Come on, Rick. Here he comes. Hold on one second.
Guys, I don't know
Yeah,
what happened.
that's all right. I think we lost you for a minute. We're okay. We're sitting there waiting on you.
Okay.
Now, you were saying
What was the question again, Lamont? What was the?
we were talking about the hoop state and
Oh,
yeah, and you were talking about how Indiana was the last. They have big hoops up there.
yeah, they have big hoops up there, but they don't have the history in North Carolina producing the amount of pros that come out of the state. And like I said before, you have the David Thompson's world and the Michael Jordans, the Dominique Wilkins, the Phil Fords, and the list goes on. James Worthy, and the list goes on and on as far as the people that come from North Carolina. And just recently, just look at Smith, Harry Giles, Idris Adebayo, Kobe White. The list goes on and on. And Grant Williams. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
just a litmus of players from the state of North Carolina, and that's going to continue every year, in my opinion.
We just had somebody ask a question, so we're gonna see. They said, "How do you feel, Coach Rick? The transfer portal will affect high school recruiting?"
It's affected in a big way, and I'll tell you the reason why. Um, Fortunately, with the coronavirus, it's really been a negative for unsigned seniors, and it's really going to affect the rising seniors 2021 class. What's happening is transfer portal. There's probably 800 names in there. So what happens is you have players who may have played at a level too high and they didn't get the playing time. So they're in a situation they're unhappy with their playing time, so they're going to transfer down. Flip side, you have players that go to the lower level and they do really, really well and they feel like they can play at a higher level and they transfer up. And
Right.
what's happening now is with college coaches, they can go to the transfer portal and check out a player. And let's say, for example, there's a player that's played at a mid-major level and he's averaged 10 points a game and he's in the transfer portal. Well, the college coach is thinking, guess what? I'll take a chance on him because he's a proven winner, as far as producing at the collegiate level. This guy has already proven.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree. I totally agree. Um, Now, but before you let you go, let's talk a little bit about Rick. So when you're not doing basketball, which I'm sure that's 99% of the time, what are you doing when you're not dealing with basketball or phenom? I know you were walking. I think at one time you was walking every day. What does Rick do?
Um, it's embarrassing, Lamont. There's not much else I do. uh, I really being serious. I mentioned earlier, basketball is my life. It's a passion. I do spend 10, 12 hours a day um, on basketball.
I believe that.
It's a hobby. It's something I enjoy doing. I enjoy walking. I use my walking time to make my phone calls. I'm in the office doing work, and then
Yeah.
if I have to, make phone calls, I go walk, and I do that at the same time. So I'm killing two birds with one stone. But in all honesty, I'm 63 years old, and I put as much time and effort in it today as I did, 10 years, even more.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. No, I I can totally understand that basketball is your life. That's kind of where we are. Basketball is life. Everything we do is kind of around basketball. People again, like I was saying earlier, people don't realize the time we put in to make these engines run. So you become adaptive. Even vacations, everything is around basketball. You know what I mean? So Rick, but before I let you go, what what do you want or would you like to see the legacy of Rick Lewis to be? You lost audio. Bring it back in, Rick. We want to hear that last one. Join us again. We want to hear that. That's what I want to. Okay. Yeah,
I'm back.
that you could. That's one that I want everyone to hear because you're a legend in the game. What do you feel you want that legacy to be? Can you hear me, Rick? Okay. We want to know what is your legacy that you want left for Rick Lewis. I think everybody's waiting on that question. We're gonna get him in here. Y'all know Rick stays out in. We're gonna talk about that when he gets in. He stays out in the. Rick, we know you
I'm
stay out in the. We know you
back.
stay out in the country, so we know it's the signal out there ain't the greatest. But what do you want your legacy to be?
Legacy. Um, I would hope to say my legacy is provide a platform that allows a lot of young players an opportunity to play next level. And I think also uh, I want to be able to say that I've provided a good role model for a lot of people to follow, to be positive, to be encouraging, and you don't have to be negative. Um, and I just take pride, Lamont, just like you do. Take pride in running away. And I just hope people remember that we gave them a platform and we gave them an opportunity to achieve their goals and dreams.
That's great. I think you're doing an excellent job at toward that goal because you've been someone that my staff and myself alike have been able to look up to and follow the example of, and some of these young guys that are starting their own scouting services. We have to remember they look up to us even when we're not feeling good, or those type of things.
And Lamont, people don't understand this. Like with Poppy, people don't understand. Poppy played with Carolina Flight, and I coached him.
That's right. That's
Eastern
right.
State's my
He,
hometown.
that's right. That's right. In fact, when you put up a few minutes ago about when you talked about the Carolina flight, he threw up a hand signal up for the Carolina flight. He remember it. So yeah, that's history.
We had we had times together.
That's right. That's right. Well, Coach Rick, let me be the one to tell you how much we appreciate you being here. I think the people really needed to see us together and show that one, we get along great, and two, that we both have a common goal of helping these young kids get to the next level, and we want to do it together you know and if I can help you in any kind of way and you can help me in any kind of way, I'm assured like you are that we're just a phone call away. So I want to thank you again for coming, and sharing your insight and a little bit about Coach Rick Lewis from Phenom. We thank you so much, Coach. So what we're going to talk about next, y'all tune in Tuesday. We have Jamin Brakefield here Tuesday, the three-time Gatorade Player of the Year for West Virginia, and uh, and uh, and also Duke commit. Um, so we were excited, and we this is a weekly show. We were glad to have Coach Rick here, and anything we need, Coach, we know we can call you, and we want that to be likewise. If you need anything we can help you with, please feel free to give us a buzz.
Lamont, can I say this?
Yes, sir.
I want to say thank you for having me on, and I appreciate the friendship and support over the years. I think what you did by reaching out and having me, Phenom, on Get Me Recruited, um, platform, speak by of you person, and it means a lot to me more than you'll ever realize. And I also want to thank all the players, the parents, high school or the AAU or travel ball level. Thank you for the support that you've given Phenom over the years. We have a bright future, and Phenom and Get Me Recruited are two great platforms. And you know what? We're not in competition with each other. We're here to help as many young players to achieve their goals and dreams as possible. And I do want to say thank you. It means a lot to me, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart.
I know you do. That's why I asked you. I really do. And again, if there's anything we can do, please feel free to reach out. Everyone, although I